I was in Afghanistan for 10 days, had an amazing experience. That was a huge benchmark trip for me because I felt like, there's different levels in the world of travel. And I feel like once you unlock Afghanistan, you feel like you've unlocked the whole world. So that was an epic trip.
I saw some West Africa madness. You guys were on the ore train. Tell us about that.
That was honestly the most grueling trip of my life.
This is Creator, the podcast from Matador Network. I'm your host, Ross Borden, and I believe creators are the future of all global advertising. So join me as I sit down with top creators to hear about how they got started, the challenges they've overcome, and the tips you need to become a full-time creator.
All right, we're back with another episode of Creator, the podcast. Today we have Eli Snyder with us, someone that I have been following on TikTok and his reels as he travels all over the world to very interesting countries that most people don't go to. So Eli, welcome.
Thank you so much, Ross. It's good to be here. My name's Eli Snyder. As Ross said, my handle is Snyd Explores, so SNYD Explores. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and yeah, I'm a full-time traveler. So.
And where are you right now, Eli?
I'm currently in New York City, so I'm sitting in my girlfriend's apartment. About to hit the road again for like a long 3 to 4 month stint, but I've been in the US for a month now, which has been good.
Okay, cool. And so,
yeah,
I guess, how did you get started? Were you traveling before you were a creator, or you started traveling? You're like, I'm living some crazy fucking adventures, and now I want to start making content. How did this all happen?
No, I've been traveling well before I started making content, which was like in March 2023. That's when I left my corporate job. I had all my savings and I hit the road with the goal of making a full-time income from making travel content. But yeah, I've been traveling long before that, always spending any money I had on trips. And probably 3 years, maybe 2020 is when I started doing solo travel. Because most of the destinations I found myself interested in that I wanted to go to, I couldn't find any friends who wanted to go with me. So just started going alone.
So what was that, Pakistan, places like that? Give people who don't follow you a little taste of the last couple years of adventures or months of adventures.
So looking back on this past year, I started in Central Asia. I flew from Kansas City, my hometown, to Pakistan. Traveled all throughout Pakistan, hitchhiking, couch surfing, had a really good experience there. And then I crossed the land border, the Turkmenistan border, into Afghanistan. I was in Afghanistan for 10 days, had an amazing experience. That was a huge benchmark trip for me because I felt like, there's different levels in the world of travel. And I feel like once you unlock Afghanistan, you feel like you've unlocked the whole world. So that was an epic trip.
Why was it such an epic trip? Tell us, dive a little deeper on Afghanistan.
It was just such a mission. There's not many tourists who are going there, but the tourists who do go there have a guide. 99% of people have a guide. If you're maybe crazy enough to go to Afghanistan, you go with a guide. When you, just in general, a rule of thumb, when you see people go to these crazy places, you think, they're ill prepared or they have a death wish or something like that. Rest assured, the amount of research and preparation that goes into a trip like this is it's almost like you've already been to the country beforehand. But there's a Facebook group, I'm not going to out it out of respect for the admins, but there's a Facebook group that's pretty tight-knit of serial travelers who go to these countries, and there's a wealth of information in there, down to GPS coordinates and everything. And there's tons of information on Afghanistan, so that's where I got most of my information. But before the trip, the map of Afghanistan in my Google Maps is just a sea of pins of places I knew I could sleep, of tea houses, of Taliban houses, restaurants, healthcare clinics, stuff like that. So the preparation was
did you
just as fun as
decide
the
not
trip.
to do it with a guide because you're I don't hire guides, or it was to save money, or what? Why did you decide no guide?
Yeah, I just wanted the thrill of just piecing it all together myself. That's one thing. And the second thing is the guides for Afghanistan are super expensive because there's a bit of a monopoly, and also, people, you can't really put a price on safety. So people will really kind of pay anything. So I knew I wanted to do it alone.
Did you feel safe? Did it feel safe when you were there?
So honestly, no. I'm kind of a cautious person, even though it doesn't seem like it. And Yeah, not having someone to like translate for me and only being able to translate for myself. I mean, the cell towers there are inoperable. The service sucks. Persian is the best thing you can download on Google Translate, but it's different from Dari, the Afghan dialect. So I couldn't really communicate that well. A lot of Taliban are kind of assholes. Younger ones are like more chill because they're just in it because it's one of the only ways that they can put food on the table. It's an incredibly poor country. But the elder Taliban are really quite rude and stern, and especially when you present a U.S. passport. So yeah, it was sketchy. When I say I went with a 22-year-old German who was traveling from Germany to Australia without taking a plane. So he had to go to Afghanistan.
Wow.
Yeah, so I met him in
How did you link up with him on the Facebook group?
No, I met him in Pakistan. There's actually only one hostel in Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan. It's not a hostel. It's just someone who pays rent in a apartment unit and rents it out, has some bunk beds in there. But I was craving social connection, because the one thing about going to these countries is the social isolation is immense. I mean, you talk to no one who knows anything about your worldview for a while. So of course I booked a hostel. Everyone in there was Afghan refugees and Pakistanis except for one guy. He actually looks Afghan. He's my good friend now, Valentin. We're going to Syria here in a few weeks. But I walked in the door and he looked at me and he was like, you're a Westerner. I was like, yeah, I am. You're a Westerner too. And he was like, yeah, I am. I was like, where are you from? He goes, I'm from Germany. I was like, I'm from the US. He's like, what are you doing? Traveling Pakistan. Same with him. And he's like, where are you going next? And I kind of like reluctantly was like, I'm going to Afghanistan, because everyone that I had spoken to before this in Pakistan was like, don't go there. Do not go there. Why are you going to Afghanistan? And so I had learned
like
to be
Pakistanis were saying that, or other international travelers?
Pakistanis were saying that.
Okay.
Yeah, Pakistanis were saying that. They also don't really like Afghans. So I had gotten to the point where I was a little bit reserved with sharing that information, but he lit up and he was like, I'm going to Afghanistan. And I was like, yes, we go together. So initially we were just going to cross. Initially we were just going to cross together, and he was going to go on his way through Tajikistan because he had to kind of keep moving. But once we got in, we didn't really feel safe to separate, and we just stayed together the next day, and then the next day, and kept doing that until we eventually parted ways. So
when you say the Taliban are mostly assholes, I believe it, but I like, they're basically running are they doing like checking your passport, doing customs, they security? They're everything, right? They are the government, and
they're the government.
Yeah. So you are forced to interact. You're talking to Taliban all the time. Essentially.
6 to 10 times a day. You're not going to avoid the Taliban, especially like Afghanistan's a very diverse country ethnically. Like there's redheads who look like they're from Ireland and they're Afghan, and there's people who look like they could be from Beijing and they're Afghan. But the one thing they don't have is people who look like me, like blonde haired.
Right.
Like,
so you stick out.
No facial hair. They'd see me from a football field away and just start walking towards me and be like, permit, passport. So you have to have permits when you're in Afghanistan that you get in Kabul, the capital. But they're just like, they're just kind of like, they want to put their hands on you and they want to look through your phone, and they're just, they're incredibly uneducated too. Like there were several times when they would hold my passport upside down. Like one time, I'll never forget, I crossed into Afghanistan, and one of my first interactions with the Taliban it's this guy who's wearing, I'll never forget, he was wearing a navy Adidas tracksuit, and he just has this huge AK strapped to his chest. And he takes my passport and he's holding my Vietnam visa in my passport, and it's like upside down. And he's just looking at it like this. I'm like, oh God, like this is who my life is in the hands of, So that really, like, that experience really put it into perspective. But
So when you say that you didn't feel safe there, was it mainly because you're like, any of these guys could go on a power trip and throw me in jail or kidnap me? Or is it really the Taliban who are the most menacing in that whole country? Or is do you feel unsafe for other reasons?
Not other reasons. Any sort of insecurity would be chalked up to, it would be like a misinterpretation of like me breaking the law. There's so many laws, there's so many rules. So I felt like I was walking on eggshells, and I could see how, I could do something that they would interpret as me violating a rule, and then I didn't know what, the consequence would be. So that's how I felt unsafe, but I didn't feel unsafe in terms of like, I mean, you would never be mugged in Afghanistan. There's no more like war, so you're not going to get shot in crossfire or something. It would just be some misinterpretation of some stupid law they have.
And can you travel freely, or are there places that you can go and places that you can't go? Like once you're there and you're in, obviously you said you're getting hassled and stopped and people are checking your permit and your passport a couple times a day, but like, are you free to roam about the country wherever you want?
100%. You need to get permits for every province you will enter, and you can do that all at once in Kabul. And once you have your permits, and of course you have your visa because you needed the visa to enter the country, once you have those two things, you can go anywhere in Afghanistan. Only the walk-on corridor, which is if you look at Afghanistan, there's a tail in the northeast. That corridor, there's like special restrictions surrounding visiting there, but the rest of the country, you're totally fine to visit.
And then I saw your food video. I think you counting down to like your favorite food, and number one was Pakistan, right? Did you so that was the Afghanistan experience. What was Pakistan like? And
Pakistan's just chill, like proper chill. Like I've never been to India, but I feel like I feel like it prepared me for India, except when Pakistanis look at you and they think, oh, a foreigner, they're like, I want to give them the best experience possible. So the kindest people I've ever met in my life. Sincerely, like the most hospitable people ever. Like if you went to Pakistan and you had the mission of not paying for anything, I mean, you could survive for months and months and months. They offer their homes, food, help. They'll offer to drive you 3 hours just because they want to help you. I mean, they're the kindest people ever. So no stress in Pakistan whatsoever.
Interesting. That's great to hear.
Really awesome. Chill, laid back place.
So those are some pretty adventurous destinations. What about I saw some West Africa madness. You guys were on the ore train. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we did the ore train. That was honestly the most grueling trip of my life. West Africa is the rawest of the raw. I mean, like from a continent perspective, Africa would be considered, the hardest to travel, but West Africa is on a whole different level. There is like zero foreigners and tourists. The only foreigners and tourists are Peace Corps people and diplomats. So that was intense. And honestly, the most intense country we went to was our first country, which was Mauritania. That's where we took that train. Easily my least favorite country. Like that place is really, really raw. And another thing where you can sort of like pay a guide to help you do the train, but we wanted to jerry rig it ourselves. So we found all the coordinates from friends and eventually successfully caught the train. It took like 27 hours for us to catch it. But
so this is when you're like riding on iron ore, I guess, like they're like through the desert for days, or how long? Like where do you get on the train and how do you get off? And do they even know you're on the train? Or are you like freeloading like on the ride, like just sitting?
They know. It's weird going there. It takes like 18 hours to get to this town by car, and there's military checkpoints. And so, they stop the car, they shine the flashlight in the car, they see foreigners, they're like, you guys come here. And then they're like, where are you going? And you say Zuarat, which is where you board the train. And they're like, what are you doing in Zuarat? Because it's illegal to ride this train. And you're like, oh, for tourism. And they're like, there's nothing to do in Zuarat. It's a mining town. It's really like a really, really shitty town. So they know, and
they know what you're doing there. So they're just asking loaded questions.
You're like, oh, we're just going. We're just going to see Zuarat. So that's how
and
it
then
works.
It stops there. You basically like jump in when it's stopped. And then how long are you on the train once it starts moving?
Yeah, the train goes from Zuarat to the Atlantic coast, Nouadhibou, which is the second biggest city in Mauritania. The train takes about 24 to 30 hours to get from Zuarat to Nouadhibou. You don't know how long it's going to take. And usually, so there's been one pickup point in Zuarat where it's been known, like, if you want to take the train, this is where you go. Well, we went there one day, we waited maybe like 5 hours, and then someone comes and they say, hey, the train's not coming today. So it's like, okay, we have to go back to town, find some shitty hotel, sleep there, and then come try again. And then the next day we get in the carts, there's maybe like 20 carts filled to the brim with iron ore. I mean, it's like finer than sand. And we're confident that this is going to be our chariot that's going to lead us the way. And there's no like control car, there's no car in the front, but we just assume that the control car that we can see, that's maybe like 10 football fields back, is going to come up and then reverse into us, connect to us, and then take us off. Well, after waiting in this iron ore, like we're just completely covered, like hiding from the workers, like this, like under the rim. The control car takes off and just keeps going and leaves us in the dust. So at this point, I'm like, fuck it, we're not going to successfully take this train. You know, I'm over this. I'm already having a really bad time because this is like the worst country ever. But there was a nice local who saw us and said, I know you want to take the train. I know where you can take the train. It's 30 minutes away. And if you leave now, you'll make it. So he called his friend.
This is a Mauritanian dude who just spoke English and was like...
Yeah. Oh, no, he spoke French. I speak French. So
okay.
That helps a lot in West
Helpful
Africa.
West Africa. That's
I can't imagine doing it. I cannot imagine doing West Africa without French. So he tells me that his friend comes in his taxi, picks us up. We speed down the highway 30 minutes, and then right as we get there, we see the train, the longest train in the world, coming, and then it just kind of slows down. I don't know if it ever really stops at this pickup point, but threw all our bags in and then hopped in there. We were only in there for 7 hours. There's a town where you can get off, and we had to go to Senegal the next day, so we were in a bit of a time crunch. We weren't anticipating spending 27 hours just trying to catch the train. So
wow, that's insane. So amazing story, but maybe would not recommend, would not do it again.
No, dude, it's honestly, I would do it again. It is something about it is so magical. I mean, it's just like, you know, any other amazing journey, the hero's journey. It's like you work so hard for something, and then once you're actually on that train and it's just you there, you know, the Saharan landscapes and all you can see is nothingness. And yeah, it was such a magical experience. It hurt. It made me extremely sick. But yeah.
What, like breathing the iron ore dust?
Yeah, breathing. Yeah. I mean, you're going to have iron ore in your eye sockets, in your ears, in your nostrils, in your teeth for like weeks. And it hurt. It's very like fine, and it feels like a metal. Like if you grate your teeth when it's in your mouth, you hear it and you feel it. So that's sort of the price you have to pay to ride this train.
That sounds pretty hardcore.
It was.
But I love it. I've always wondered, I've never talked to anyone who's done that, and I've always seen those photos and videos of people riding that train. I'm like, this looks like a full-on adventure. Like,
it was amazing. It was so amazing.
What about your favorites from West Africa? Any highlights that you've really loved from West Africa or Africa in general? I don't know if you've been to the rest of Africa.
I haven't traveled much in Africa. I mean, my favorite African country is Algeria. I'd say that's my probably third favorite country in the world. I love Algeria. I spent 3 weeks there, hitchhiked all over Algeria. Absolutely.
Why was it so great?
Place. Oh, it's just like that sort of Middle Eastern Islamic hospitality kindness that I'm so obsessed with. It's also just such a hidden gem. Algeria used to have the nickname of being the North Korea of Africa. It's Africa's biggest country. It's the 10th biggest country in the world, and there is no tourism. And they have no interest in tourism. It's 12 times the size of Morocco. And for every one tourist Algeria gets, Morocco gets 36 tourists. So it's just raw, but it works well. It's almost like it's like a communist country, but it's not. I mean, they have a national airline, and it's subsidized, and the flight prices are super cheap. The food is really cheap. People are happy. People are proud to be Algerian. Not like a lot of homelessness. Everyone kind of has their basic needs. Bread is subsidized. Bread's really cheap. People who live in Algeria love Algeria. Just kind of like
it does sound like a communist country.
Yeah, and like and it's not even that there's like, I guess you would say like tariffs on imports and exports, but they really don't have like Western goods. Like there's a Coke knockoff, and there's an Oreo knockoff, and a Snickers knockoff, which I thought was pretty interesting, but loved my time there. And then in West Africa, Senegal was the best for food. Cote d'Ivoire had the best infrastructure. I was surfing in Cote d'Ivoire, surfing in Ghana. That was amazing as well. And Guinea was the most corrupt. Guinea was the most corruption I've ever dealt with in my life. And I would recommend someone visit Afghanistan who's a novice traveler before they go to Guinea, because that place is really intense. But yeah.
Wow. All right. No, avoid Guinea at all costs.
Yeah.
What was the
Guinea,
best surf break that you surfed in West Africa? Any standouts?
Yeah, there's a small community called Druin. It's Drewin. You can look it up. You're not going to see like any roads on Google Maps that lead to it, but you can get there by moto, and it's just some shacks. And I don't know how these surfboards made it to this community, but some little Ivorian kids who are really young and absolutely rip. Like the break there is so consistent. The seabed is soft. It's a great place to learn how to surf, and these kids shred, and
I saw a guy
really cool.
ripping, like a young kid ripping on like a piece of plywood in West Africa. That was just like, he had a piece of plywood and he's like, this will work. And he just went out and now he knows how to surf. It's not even on a surfboard, like unbelievable.
That's quite common. I mean, they work with what they have. So yeah. That was pretty cool.
So what's the response been? I mean, you've grown some big accounts. I think you have about 200,000 on TikTok and about half that on Instagram. How have you grown your following? What's been your experience as a creator, not just a traveler?
Yeah, I'm still trying to find my voice. I don't want to be too like heavy, but most of my content's pretty like informative or educational, or it's me like with a voiceover, but I feel like I have a really loyal following. I'm so grateful for the people who followed my adventures, and I feel like they appreciate the way that I storytell. Of course, there's like lots of negativity and criticism, but most of that came from my Afghanistan content, which was the most catalytic. That's the series that really pushed me over to have a huge following. So why do
you think that was? Just because it's like rare that people don't see Afghanistan content?
People think going to Afghanistan is like
supporting the Taliban.
So supporting the Taliban.
Yeah.
Which for me, I'm like, I don't have to support a government to visit the country. If I reserved my travels to countries with perfectly harmless and ethical governments, I probably wouldn't travel at all. So if you just do that, then that's not really going to happen. Also, what people who say those things don't realize is just how much it means to the Afghan people to have someone come and visit their country and appreciate their country. So those human connections just mean the world to me and meant a lot to those people, and it's the reason I'm going back. I love Afghan people. So, yeah.
Why solo? Why are you so obsessed with solo travel?
Now it's actually not as much solo. Like, I like a small group, but no, I think everyone needs to solo travel. I mean, that's how you learn about yourself. I can't imagine like going through life all the way up to adulthood and just never spending a significant amount of time alone with yourself. I mean, how else can you have time to pause and reflect and get to know who you really are? So for that purpose, like for the formative purpose, but also it's such a high for me to be in a place when like I don't speak the language, no one looks like me, and there's no one who is Western or has even a remotely similar background to me within 100 miles. Like that feeling, when I have that feeling and I look around and I realize that I'm living in that moment, like it's just such a good feeling, just being way out there,
Yeah. Good for you. I had similar experiences, early 20s hitchhiking around Africa by myself. And it is a very, very unique vibe. And yeah, I think solo travel is definitely something that everyone should experience. And even better if it's in a place like Africa,
Where in Africa have you been?
I was in East Africa. I'm obsessed with Africa, so I've traveled quite extensively, but not West Africa. That's why I'm so curious asking you about West Africa, because I've never been. But I hitchhiked all over East Africa solo, and Madagascar. I did a bunch of
Madagascar.
Yeah.
Wow, that's way out.
3 weeks, cool. Camped with these Vezu sea gypsies off sort of in the Mozambique Channel between the western side of Madagascar and Mozambique.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
there's some
bunch of
islands there?
like really deep water. Yeah, there's some there. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, but they're basically like sandbars.
Okay, yeah.
And these guys are like essentially natives, but they're commercial fishermen. They trade everything. They trade fish for everything. Water, fresh water, all their other food, their rice, cigarettes, everything that they want, they basically trade fresh fish for. But it's about 17 kilometers off the coast of Madagascar, and we rolled up and they welcomed me, and it was just like an unbelievable experience. Really beautiful life these people lead. But yeah, right
I'm
up your alley.
jealous.
I think
would love to do that. You really have to be so flexible for these kind of things to work out, Like
yeah,
time
well,
is
that's why
just
you got to do it when you're young. I have 2 kids
Yeah.
now. Ain't no 3-week solo travel happening anytime soon. So, what else are you really excited about for this next leg? Why I wanted to ask about Iran. I mean, Iran, another deeply misunderstood place where the people and the
Deeply
government
misunderstood.
are completely different. We
So
actually
different.
shot a little documentary about Iran. It's the documentary. It's actually a series of films called "Is It Really That Bad?" And it actually follows
cool.
someone like yourself, like to places
Yeah.
like Iraq, Iran,
Yeah.
Syria, and we, asking that question: Is it really dangerous? Is it really bad? Are the people really,
Yeah.
Anti-Western? So
Yeah.
that was obviously before. This was like the first time. That was the first episode of that series that we shot, and so that was like probably 6 or 7 years ago now. So a lot has changed in Iran. What is it like to get? Did you have to get like a crazy visa to visit
it's
there?
insane, dude. I've never been asked so many questions for a visa as I have for this Iranian visa. Well, so to visit Iran, you can do whatever you want. You can backpack, you can piece together your own trip, book your own hotels, XYZ. With any passport, except for 3, U.S. passport, UK passport, and Canadian passport. Those 3 nationalities, you have to be accompanied by a guide at all times in Iran, which is unfortunate because Iran is such a safe place and very cheap and great for travel. But yeah, I'm going with a few other content creators. We put together a trip. We're really excited about it. But there's a visa form, and it's pretty intense, all the things that they want to know. For example, like a while ago, I posted a video in Algeria of me saying, and this was stupid of me, but I said, I was making a comment about how I said, how Algeria has all their own state products, like knockoff Oreos and stuff. And I said, it's almost as if you're in a communist country like Iran. I initially thought Iran's communist. I've since learned it's not a communist country. But that was a while ago, maybe like 40 videos ago. And my contacts,
They picked up on it. They knew about
said,
it.
Hey, just so you know, when I submit this application, you're going to need to archive that video. And the video has like over 1 million views. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Crazy.
Father, like birthplace, occupation, everyone, my immediate family, all that information for me, every country I've ever been to with border entry and exit date. So that took me a very, very, very long time to piece together. Educational background, entire employment history, back to middle school. I mean, they know everything about me. So, but it's worth it because if you asked me 3 years ago, and even if you ask me today, what's my number 1 dream country? It's always been Iran. So that's the one I'm the most excited about.
Well, both from this doc that we shot and just personal friends of mine who've been there, everyone's like, the people are among the coolest in the whole world and obsessed with Americans and like want to, bring you home and cook you dinner and meet their whole family. And it seems like it's going to be an incredible trip from that angle.
I know. I'm just hoping I can get away from my guide a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be amazing. Super misunderstood place.
Cool. So how are you sustaining all of this? I mean, I guess like if you're going to Hawaii and Vail, and it's probably easier as a travel creator to pick up brand partnerships than Pakistan and Afghanistan and Iran.
Yeah, 100%.
How are you monetizing your following, or are you not and just creating content for now? What's your plan in terms of sustaining this new life?
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a really good year for me this year. So the bulk of my income will be my group trip business. I have a travel agency. I'll run 6 expeditions this year, but I'm the sole proprietor. I'm the only employee, and so I want the value add of my agency, my trips, to be that I take you to places that maybe logistically you wouldn't be able to figure out how to travel solo. So an example for that is Norway. I have 2 trips to Norway this summer. Or B, you wouldn't have the confidence to go to by yourself. An example of that is Afghanistan. So I'm taking a group of 8 people to Afghanistan in April. So group trips, that's the biggest share of my income this year. Brand partnerships for sure. Some affiliate income. I have some retainers for UGC, so like creating content for other companies to post on their channels. And then there's always, expense reduction. So getting free nights in exchange for some stuff. That's called a gifted collaboration. But yeah, slowly but surely I'm navigating this, this world. And at first, the whole thing was so like overwhelming, and even now I feel like I've been doing this for so long, but I've only been making short form videos for like maybe 17 or 18 months. That's really not that long in the grand scheme of things. So that gives me a lot of encouragement.
All right, after a slight change of scenery for Eli, we're back with some better audio.
Back.
Where can people find like your trip lineup? Is that on a website or on your socials?
Yeah, it's on my website, which is eli-snyder.com. Also, all my socials, Snide Explores, you'll see it. And there's also an account for my business. It's called Snide Expeditions. So SNYD Expeditions. You'll find all the information on the Norway trips and Namibia and Guatemala.
I have one more thing I want to ask you about. So we did a mini doc at Matador for, I think it's pronounced Whang-Od, the tattoo artist in the Philippines. And you saw her and got a tattoo.
Yeah, these 3 right here. Apo Whang-Od is her name. She was 107 when I got it done. That was in February. March, but she's still kicking it. So yeah, she's a legend. Going. Another thing where you can buy a tour and have it all arranged, or you can have a real adventure by piecing it together yourself, and that's what I did. But that was the single best experience I had all 2024. I highly recommend, especially go sooner rather than later if you can. I think it's the best thing you can do in the Philippines.
I do have one more question, especially since you're someone as well-traveled as yourself. If your passport, I ask this question to every person who comes on the pod. So if your passport only worked in 3 countries in the whole world, and you could go nowhere else, live nowhere else other than those 3 countries, where would the 3 countries be?
I get the U.S., right? The U.S. I still have access.
That's one of the 3. You can have it if it's one of the 3.
Damn, dude. Okay. Well, then I'm going Argentina, New Zealand.
Argentina, U.S., New Zealand?
Yeah. Argentina, U.S., New Zealand. U.S. obviously for family. And I like New York City. Argentina because I love Buenos Aires and the nature, and that's my favorite country on earth. And then New Zealand for nature and skydiving. So yeah, that kind of checks.
Oh, you big skydiver?
Yeah, I'm a big skydiver. I've been skydiving all month in January down in Austin. So I like 140 jumps. I bring my rig most places. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I also I agree with you on Argentina. Amazing country. I lived in San Telmo in Buenos Aires.
Damn,
for 6 months.
Dude, you're really well traveled. I wish I could have just interviewed you the whole time.
No. I think you've been to more interesting places. I'm
not sure about that.
I'm changing diapers, homebody, running a company.
Yeah,
I'm not traveling as much anymore. But awesome, man. Well, good luck on all the future travels. We will make sure everyone has a link to the trips because I think that's amazing. Congrats on that business.
Thank you so much.
You got to come back on the podcast when you get back from this round and tell us about
I would love to.
All the new adventures in the Middle East.
100%. Thanks so much, Ross. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Eli.
Creator, the podcast, is produced by Matador Network. We are a leading global travel publisher focused on travel and adventure. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe. Every week, I interview a new top creator. New episodes are released every Tuesday on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere podcasts are found. Thanks for listening.